Hey everyone, welcome. It's time for Atomic Radio Hour, the post-nuclear podcast. This is episode 344. Everywhere, all over the internet, I've been posting that this is going to be episode 345. It's not, it's 44. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Vince. This is Atomic Radio Hour, the post-nuclear podcast. I have quite the show for you today. I'm going to break it down like this. If you want to see anything in particular, in the description below, there is timestamps. I'm going to have the usual. I'm going to talk about some of the show leaks that are really, really awesome. I'm going to talk about a little bit of lore, the Patreon, and then I'm going to talk about the new Switch 2 video. So if you want to see all the Switch 2 stuff, it's at the end of the video, so go check that stuff out. It's me, your host, Vince. If you like the show in any capacity, check it out with the Patreon links everywhere. Also, the Discord, the Redbubble, whatever. Hi, there are some things we have to talk about this week, and one of the first things is very, very exciting. The following bit is going to be about the show leaks. Fallout on Prime leaks. Some pretty substantial leaks. And if you don't want to hear them, skip to either the Patreon or the lore segment below. On screen right now is going to be a timestamp to jump to skip all of this spoiler discussion. Did you skip? Did you stick around? If you're hearing this, I'm hoping that you stood around. Hi. So, one of the biggest leaks that happened, this happened like right after I recorded last week, so I didn't get to talk about it. We got a pretty substantial set leak. Two things that I'm very, very excited to see, and I'm going to save the one that I'm really excited to see for just a second. I will not be putting it on screen. I don't want my video taken down, and also, I don't want someone who wanted to skip to scroll through the little bar and accidentally see it. But we had a leak of Brotherhood of Steel mixed, essentially, just NCR power armor. It doesn't necessarily have to be with the Brotherhood of Steel, but NCR power armor. And I saw a lot of people going, the NCR doesn't use power armor. They do in a weird kind of way. At the end of New Vegas, when you're at the Hoover Dam, they are fighting. The NCR is fighting in power armor. It's decommissioned power armor. I have a lore video about it. The insides have essentially been gutted and stripped and ripped out, and it's a little different from regular power armor, but it's the protection nonetheless. But the version that we have seen is with the NCR Ranger helmet. So if you've seen this going around, it's a body, probably T-45, which makes the most sense, honestly. Even though, in my mind, the West has always been more of a T-51 area. Knowing the show and knowing the way the series went, it might be T-60. But it doesn't make sense if it is to me, because canonically there wasn't T-60 at the Battle of Hoover Dam. Now, could it be retcon? Probably. But I think that it would be 45. Not just because it's 40. No, I think actually it would be 45 because it's 45 in the game, because it's only 45. And when you meet the Brotherhood in the bunker, they're all wearing 51. So I'm assuming you'd all be wearing 45, T-45 power armor, right? And that's really cool, and to see the Brotherhood, and to see, I keep saying the Brotherhood, getting to see the NCR with, like, the NCR logo, the two-headed bear and what have you, getting to see that on power armor, on a soldier, on something that would have presumably been used for combat in the show, fantastic. But what's really awesome is, if you're new to the program, I am a big fan of practical effects in a movie. I'm a big fan of Godzilla, and I'm a very big fan of Godzilla, and I'm a pretty big fan of the Muppets. I don't know why. I've always liked puppets, and I can't tell you why. From when I was very young, I thought it was fun. That little puppet joke where the puppeteer looks at the puppet and looks back at the audience always gets me. Don't know why. Anyway, they have a practical Deathclaw suit. A practical Deathclaw. And when someone told me about it, I immediately got into the Godzilla stance where you can't really see. I'm doing it, but you can't see me if you're watching this. You kind of bring your arms closer to you, and they're shorter because you're supposed to be like a bipedal dinosaur. And you kind of lower your center of gravity. Hello. Lower your center of gravity and just kind of heavy stomps, and that's what I pictured immediately. Maybe the Deathclaw shoulders are a little broader because of this, but I would pay them to let me be in that hot, sweaty suit in LA and film being a practical Deathclaw. I would give almost anything to do that. Just because I would walk around set when no one was looking, and I'd be like, this one's for you, Nakajima-san. And just be like, what you did in 1954 means the world to me. Even though that guy's long dead. Just, it feels like my two favorite things melding. It feels like Fallout. The idea of just this big, giant suit stumbling through. And I was having a conversation with someone. They're like, how do you think it's going to happen? Like, how do you think we're going to see it? And I kind of hope they play it the same way they played it in Fallout 1. And in Fallout 1, it was very much, I talked about it 2 weeks ago with Harold about how he was one of the only people who had, like, seen a Deathclaw. I hope they make it like that. I hope when the ghoul, because it's going to be, I think the way they're going to play those, Lucy's going to be like, oh goodness, what's that thing? And then Marcus is going to be like, these are real? Not Marcus. Maximus is going to be like, these things are real, and the ghoul is going to be like, oh, not this again, because it's supposed to be someone told me there's a theory of like your first playthrough, your like fourth playthrough, and then your 200th playthrough where you're playing something silly, and I can just see it being like that, and I just hope wherever they encounter them, it's not Quarry Junction. It's also opened up a slew of fan theories because of where we're seeing these leaks that we saw were apparently near what is the Strip. And there's a theory about tunnelers, and there's a theory about the Deathclaws of Quarry Junction and the cloud from the Sierra Madre. I just want the show to come out already so I can see it. But good things take time, and we have to wait for them. But a giant practical Deathclaw suit, just boom, 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 stomping around. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it. I might cry. If they do it correctly and there's no CG, I may cry. The director or whoever is choosing to do these practical effects, the fact that the power armor is a practical effect and the weapons are practical effects and the Deathclaw suit are practical effects, that they're making these props. That guy needs they ass ate. Whoever is doing this just needs to be told they're a good boy and get pats on the head constantly, because whoever's making these decisions and then hiring the correct people to do it, you're just doing everything right from what I've seen. And now the costume that I've seen has some parts and pieces to it that are they don't look like they're fully connected. And yeah, probably that'll be touched up in post, but also they probably have multiple suits. They probably have the one suit, and then they have the suit for the close-ups, and they have the suit that goes in the water, and then they have the suit that gets caught on fire, and then they have the other suit that's just as a backup. All these other suits to make the one thing work. We are getting a physical, practical effect of a Deathclaw, and I'm so gosh damned excited to see it. And I can't wait to do the Vault Boys with Kyle again, like we did it last time, I should say, and do it again and talk about it again. I'm so effing excited. So I have a fun piece of lore. It's a piece of lore we've done in the past a long time ago, but it's one I wanted to redo, and I felt like talking about, I'll get there when I get there. Before I can tell you about all the fun stuff I want to tell you with the lore, I have to thank the Patreon. Because of the Patreon, the show can continue to grow and get bigger and better. I may have a burner coming up for you guys sometime soon, and because of it, I have to go out and get some props. I bought one recently, and I will be getting some this weekend or maybe next weekend for it, and I'll be filming it probably next weekend, but it'll be something quick that I can bring to you guys, and I think you're going to really enjoy it. The names that are on screen currently that I have to thank. Starting at the top, I have to start with the OG Noah. Thank you, Noah. After Noah, I have to thank Willy DuWitt. Thank you to Willy DuWitt, who's here tonight to watch the episode live. Thank you for being here, sir. Appreciate you, pal. After Willy DeWitt, I have to thank Captain Lennox. Thank you to Captain Lennox. After Captain Lennox, I have to thank DanishHoundDog. Thank you to DanishHoundDog. And last but certainly not least, I have to thank Brotherhood Outcast. Thank you to Brotherhood Outcast. Like I said, your continued patronage makes the show only get bigger and better. And because of you guys, I get to try new and fun stuff. I would like to get on with the rest of the episode, but please, notice these names on screen. They're supporting the show. I love you all very much. Thank you. So for today's lore, I went to the Patreon like I usually do, and I asked a poll question. I've been wanting to go back to my favorite Fallout, Fallout 3, and I've been wanting to talk about one of my other favorite Fallouts, Fallout 1, a lot lately. The aesthetic of both of them, two games that have different aesthetics, but very similar to one another in very weird minor ways. And I wanted to talk about the beginnings of the games. And I also wanted to cover old lore because I'm kind of doing this thing where I'm going back and covering old lore, whatever. I thought to myself, what is a more impactful thing? I could go back and do Shady Sands again, but I feel like I just did Shady Sands not too long ago. So I sat down and I looked at the old lore and I went, And it came down to either Megaton from Fallout 3 or the Vault 13 Overseer, loosely referred to as Jorcerin or Jackarin. I'm not exactly sure how fella's name is pronounced. So if you'd like to hear any lore, and I mean any lore whatsoever from the Fallout franchise, be it the games or the show or really any piece of media from the franchise, check out the Patreon, because from the $1 tier to the $10 tier, your voice is heard every week when it comes time to choose in a poll question the week's lore. So this week's lore, by way of the Ghoulman Entertainment Patreon, I bring to you the lore on Vault 13's Overseer from the first Fallout game. Fallout, the post-nuclear role-playing game.
Do your best. Remember, we're all counting on you.
The Vault 13 Overseer from Fallout, the first game in the series, is loosely called Jackarin or Jorcerin, Jacoren. He's never really given a name. In concept art, he had a name, so, it's one of those, it's a loose thing, but he's just referred to as the Overseer in every other instance within the game. So it's not canon whether or not that is his name. He also has a special of 7 strength, 6 perception, 4 endurance, 5 charisma, 7 intelligence, 5 agility, and 2 luck. And I don't know about you, but when it comes to the survival guides or, the Prima guides that would come out and be like, oh, this is how to play the game and do quests and what have you back in the day, I consider those canon to an extent because they're being put out and they're officially licensed. I don't think everything in there is perfect, but I think there's enough vagueness to keep it moving. And from the Fallout official survival guide on page 88, it says, the Overseer, leader of your community. This distinguished-looking gentleman is the ruler of Vault 13, a man who's sending you out into the world of Fallout to find a replacement for the Vault's water purifier chip. He genuinely cares about you and everyone in his community. He can be a bit platonistic and even condescending at times. He's a guy who genuinely cares. I think from his dialogue, when you play the game, you'll see that he cares about the people there. He believes in the preservation project. He believes in trying to keep people preserved for an amount of time. If you talk to Dick Richardson in Fallout 2 and ask about it, he claims that Vault 13 was never supposed to be open for about 200 years and was a control group in a sense. I don't agree with it. I don't disagree with it because they did have the failure, but that was a fault on Vault Tech. Vault 8 actually wound up getting all of the water chips that Vault 13 was supposed to get, and they got 2 Geks instead. So Vault 13 was supposed to have 2 Geks. Maybe that technically makes them a control vault, maybe not, but who knows? That's what's in game. Some years prior to 2161, Vault 13's water chip began to degrade a bit, and for years, the Vault tried to patch it up until finding replacement parts in the Vault became impossible. So you can imagine the stress that this would put on a community, let alone the leader of the community, where you're going, hey, we need this thing fixed, we need this thing taken care of, we need this thing sorted out, and then you just are thrown this impossible problem of how do we fix this thing? How does this thing that is essential to keeping us alive? You are given the time limit of 150 days, and if you don't find the water chip within 150 days, your vault is going to die of thirst. They're going to be so thirsty that they're going to be dead. They're not going to be able to drink, and these are people that have lived inside underground for their entire life. They have no idea how to live on the outside. They have no even close to anything of an idea of how to live on the outside. Now, the Vault Dweller, the player character, is not the first person to leave the vault. At first, the Overseer sends out Ed, and this is the skeleton that you see right by the beginning of the vault. And in an interview with one of the writers of the game, I believe it was Chris Avalone, it says when you click on it and see Ed, that's Ed, Ed's dead. It was a reference to Pulp Fiction, but also it was to show you how dangerous the world is, that someone died immediately outside of the vault. And also, Talus, who is an FEV mutant that's found in the Boneyard, is the only dweller that you can speak to that lives outside of Vault 13, and they were given some supplies and a shotgun and was like, all right, go figure this out. And they got FEV'd, and now they live in what is formerly Los Angeles. Ultimately, this led to Vault 13 dwellers pulling straws, and the Vault Dweller, the player character, draws the short one. And on December 10th of 2161, the Vault Dweller is booted out of Vault 13 into the wastes with the only knowledge of, if you head a little east, there's Vault 15. Now, the Vault Dweller goes on his quest. He does Vault Dweller activities in search of the chip. And you'll eventually find yourself at Vault 12, and if you take the chip from Vault 12, the Vault Dweller will be asked to file a report about his findings. And while doing this, you will run into mutants. You'll run into Lieutenant while you're there. And this is arguably one of the first, if not the first, encounters you have with super mutants. And the Overseer will say to you, I don't like your reports. What was in the reports, that is. In fact, they scare the heck out of me. It's those mutants. I've done some calculations and, well, I've come to an unpleasant conclusion. What's that? Says the Vault Dweller, the Overseer. The mutant population is far greater than could be expected by natural growth through mutations. This leads me to believe in... I don't really understand it, but it looks like someone's generating new mutants. And at a startling rate. I get all of my lore off of Fallout.fandom.com, the Wikipedia, if you will. I love these games. I've played these games, but I use this as a quick reference, stuff like this where I could read direct quotes from the game. And then off the Vault Dweller was to go once again to defeat the Master, and what they would later learn is the unity, the army, that the pseudo-religion type thing that the Master was setting up, the belief that that was the next level of human evolution, and also to head to the Mariposa military base and destroy the vats of FED they were using to dip humans into, to turn them into super mutants. And then, as the triumphant hero you are, you return back to Vault 13, the hero's journey, where you return back home. And the Overseer looks at you and says, you've done it. That's wonderful, amazing. I'm so proud of what you've accomplished, what you've endured. There's no way the people of this vault can ever thank you enough for what you've done. You saved all of our lives. Who knows? Maybe even saved the human race. That makes the rest of this even harder. Everyone will want to talk to you. Every youngster will look up to you and want to emulate you. And then what? They'll want to leave. What happens to the vault if we lose the best of a generation? What if we're the only safe place left in the world? You just gave us back all these lives. I can't take the chance of losing them. I've made a lot of tough decisions since I took this position, but none of them is harder than this one. You saved us, but you'll kill us. I'm sorry. You're a hero. And you have to leave. And that's actually the exact line of dialogue that you saved us, you're a hero, but you have to leave. Depending on the way the All Quiet on the Home Front quest goes in Fallout 3, Amada can say that to you as well. The exiling, so before if this happens, depending on if you have certain perks and what your reputation is, you can shoot the Overseer before he goes back into the vault. The canon ending seems to be that the isolation, the exiling of the Vault Dweller kind of backfires, and people find out about it, and they leave the vault looking for... People try to leave the vault looking for the Vault Dweller to try to follow in their footsteps and go out into the world and see what there is to do, and if they could be heroes themselves. And eventually, the Overseer of Vault 13 was sentenced to death by the people inside of Vault 13. You can talk to a fella called Martin Frobisher, if I'm saying that correctly. When the Chosen One runs into this Martin Frobisher, the Chosen One in Fallout 2 can say, "Are you the Overseer?" And Martin will say, "We don't use that term anymore. There used to be an Overseer many years ago, but he did a bad thing and many people of our vault left, only to die in the wastes. I'm sure he was tried and sentenced to death for his crimes. We haven't used that title since." Just some fun facts and some notes I'd like to read for you. The Overseer actually has like a minigun chair thing that you could try to attack him when you're in his quarters, and he'll attack you with these like 2 miniguns that come off of his chair. If you decide to side with the Master, you'll see that he tries to fight them off. The Overseer will try to fight them off with this minigun chair thing. If the player has an intelligence of 4, below 4, excuse me, the Overseer will explain things really slow and then get upset that he has to talk to someone who's so stupid. If you constantly go back to him and tell him that you haven't found the chip yet and ask for help, he'll give you some stim packs. So, quick little 1-2-1-2 on how to get some quick supplies. And especially if you go with the Unity ending of it, the Vault Dweller himself will shoot and kill personally the Overseer. It was, if the Fallout movie were to be made, that they wanted to make back in the day after this game had come out, they wanted the Overseer to be present in it, which makes sense. It would also be alluded to that he was the founder of Vault-Tec and the person who started the Great War. When Tim Kaine was asked about the Overseer and his selection process to pull a Dweller, there's a direct quote from Tim Kaine. "I always thought a Fallout story of drawing straws was something the Overseer thought of. Look, someone has to go outside and they may die, so let's just draw straws. Somebody probably, not the Overseer, since he wouldn't have gone on the outside no matter what, demanded that everyone draw straws in order to truly be fair. But to be honest, the Vault Dwellers were simply terrified of going outside, and terrified people do not always make the wisest decisions. Anyway, when Big Dumb Larry drew the straw, maybe the Overseers saw a way to rid their limited gene pool of some already bad alleles." I hope you've enjoyed that. That's the first Overseer. That's arguably the first person you get to interact with. I want to say the first person you get to see, but the first person you get to interact with, because he speaks to you in the beginning of Fallout 1. Fun character. I love that he's kind of like the foreshadowing, I guess, for the rest of the series, because something that seems good in the Fallout world often has something underneath it that is quite evil. I hope you've enjoyed that, because that has been this week's lore. Hello, it is time to talk about Nintendo now. Hi, so the Switch 2 got announced and shown off a little bit, and I genuinely think it's a giant waste of money. I think it's very anti-consumer. I think it's just bad design. I watched it, and the whole time I could only think to myself, oh wow, it's so nice of Nintendo to finally hit the Xbox 360, PS4 era. Like, it felt like I was getting out of high school again, because I think the PS4 came out the year before I graduated high school. So it was really nice to see that Nintendo is finally in 2014, because they're always about 10 years behind. They're touting that it's a bigger screen, it's got the same thickness, it's not crazy big, it has a gimmick. The gimmick is that it's, that it has mice controller Joy-Cons. Like, they're like, the Joy-Con sticks are bigger. And we've added a C button, because like that's the thing that drove me nuts. Nintendo's like, we have party chat now. We have game chat now. That thing that you've had since the launch of the 360 in 2006 or 2007? Yeah, we have that now. I don't know, man. It just seems like they finally caught up. And as they finally caught up, we're getting away from a lot of stuff. I don't know. I'm an adult. So and I feel like that's their primary audience. Like, sit there and be like, oh, they make games for everybody of all ages, children of all ages. Sure, but who's buying these things for the kids? Like, they're going to their parents and they're being like, hey, I want this, and the parents are buying it, and the parents are probably playing it when the kids aren't, because they grew up with the Nintendo stuff. And that's just my main thing, is that, like, they're showing off these games, and it's just like, here's an old game. Like Cyberpunk, Elden Ring, games that came out a long ass time ago. Like, it's, they showed off the new Mario Kart, right? It's Mario Kart. I've never been a big fan of it. It's a kart racer. It's fine. As far as I'm concerned, it exists. It does its job. I really don't know what else to say about it, to be completely honest. I've never been a big fan. I didn't really like Mario Kart 8 that much. I'll be completely honest. I think it's because I bought it because I was going to a thing, and I brought my Wii U, and no one wanted to play, and I was very upset about it, and I never played it again after that. Also, I would like to point out that for every single year I've been alive that a Nintendo product has come out, I've purchased it. So according to Google, it came out in 96. I'm born 96, but it came out before I'm born. The console after the 64 was the GameCube in 2001. I've owned a GameCube. I've owned a Wii. I've owned a Wii U. I've owned the Switch. I've owned the Game Boy Advance, the SP, the DS, the 3DS. I skipped a lot of the other DSs in there because they all just seem the same to me. But I've owned pretty much every single, I've also gone back and bought all the retro stuff. I had me selling my NES. I still have my Super Nintendo. My Super Nintendo is actually in the living room. Like, my Super Nintendo that I still have, I've sold an NES. I've had like 4 NESs over my life. I've had an N64, got rid of it. Like, I still have my GameCube at home. It's just like, my original screen name on everything was Vintendo. My name is Vincent, and I like Nintendo stuff. And my name was Vintendo, real original. I know, my mom helped me come up with that one. I remember it was my birthday when whatever. I love these products, but it doesn't feel like there's been any innovation. Like, it feels like they come up with an idea and they'll stick with it and then they'll change, or they'll innovate for the sake of innovation, but it's not even anything crazy. Like, every new Nintendo game that they showed off was free roam. Why? Why is everything free roam? I don't understand why, Mario Kart is now a free roam game. You could just free roam the map which I kind of like the idea that the 4 courses in the map are connected and you can kind of do that. I like the one where it's like the Battle Royale, where it's if you're in the bottom 4 or whatever, you get dropped out. Like, I like that. That's fun. That's new game modes. That sounds great, right? I'm not a big fan of just go drive around the world. If you're super into Mario Kart, I could see that being a cool hangout game to play with my friends, but I'm not going to pay for Switches online. I'm not, because I'm not going to play it that often, because my Switch became the game where, oh, hey, people are coming over, let's all play this, or, oh, hey, the one exclusive every other year that I want to play is coming out and I want to play it. Like, the only reason I bought Super Mario Wonder, which I will admit is probably one of the best 2D Marios I've ever played. It's so fun. It's so intuitive. It's so snappy. It's musical. I bought it because I got it in Japan for $20 off. Like, if it's 60, it was 6,400 yen, and I think I paid 4,200 yen. So I paid it was 6,500 yen. I paid about $42 after the conversion rate, right? I bought Pikmin 4, a game I never thought I'd ever like, and I liked it pretty well. I just haven't played it since I pretty much got it. But again, because it was $42, $45, because I know I'm not going to play something that I'm not going to like. And when it comes to Nintendo, it goes, here's your baby game. Here's your baby game. Have fun. Haha. No difficulty slider. Haha. Have fun. Good time. Haha. Hoo-hoo. Tinky Winky. Dipsy Po, haha. I turn it off and I watch an episode of Sesame Street. I love Sesame Street. I love puppets, like I just said a little while ago, but and then I only think everybody was freaking out about this Switch 2, because I've really seen a lot. There's one big negative we're going to talk about in a minute, and this is the biggest reason why I think it's a big waste of money, is the GameCube hype, the GameCube nostalgia. Nostalgia is bad. I love a good nostalgic thing. I'm human. Your brain reacts to nostalgia the same way it reacts to cocaine and Oreos. It wants it. It's familiar. It's safety. It's the rose-colored glasses. It's nostalgia goggles. And yeah, I can go and play F-Zero again. I can go play Wind Waker again. I think they released Wind Waker on Switch anyway, so sure, whatever. Play it again. And then it's like, you could play Soul Calibur. And if I remember correctly, there's the 2 versions of Soul Calibur. The one on the GameCube lets you play as Link, and the other one that I think is on the PlayStation allows you to play as Darth Vader. So do you want to be a twink who with a sword, or do you want to be quite literally the greatest bad guy of all time? Like the most bad guy of bad guy, before all bad guys had to have a tragic backstory and they cry and they're like, I'm doing this because I love her. And then that's what they did with Anakin. Like, that's just what they do with Anakin in the prequels, which is an entirely different story. But before that, Darth Vader was evil for the sake of evil because they needed a bad guy inspired by the Führer. Like that, like, arguably the great, and I'm a Star Wars guy. I like Star Wars. I'm not a crazy Star Wars dude. I don't know what was happening on Bantha 6 during the fucking prequels, right before the Clone Wars, but after Padme's fucking period, whatever. Well, I don't know, man. I'm kind of at a loss. And then they're like, and now Kirby Air Riders. So it's like, are we just going to get what you're doing with Super Mario Kart World? Because it's not called 9, it's called World. And just do that with Kirby. Plus, like, I hate to break it to you guys. Kirby Air Ride sucks. I remember playing that game as a kid and being like, this is it. There's like 6 tracks and you had the big open world thing. And then that was it. And there was like nothing else. And I just remember being like, what is this penis? Like, this is just, I don't know. But the big kicker. Oh, and also they're going to sell a Bluetooth wireless, connected GameCube controller. And I love the GameCube controller just as much as the next guy. All my Switch games I played with a USB GameCube controller, because also when I bought Smash, I was like, I'm not playing this without a GameCube controller. They're making that one. Great. I also, it was cool that I could hook it up to my PC and play Fallout 3. I could play the controller that got me into games. I can play my favorite game ever on. I think the only controller better than that is the 360s. The 360, even like the later incarnations, are pretty damn good, but there's just something special about the 360s to me. Maybe it's a nostalgia thing, but the 360 had a certain heft to it. The Series X, it's decent. It gets the job done. I like it. But that 360, man, had that white controller had something special about it. But here's the big thing. Here's the big thing that puts me off. Not the, I'm going to spend $500. It's a Nintendo console and I'm going to spend $500 on it. If it was like $350 and had all the same things in it, $400, I'd say it's fine. But we're going to get into 2 things that are going to shape this. The price of the games is outrageous and it's anti-consumer. When I buy a game, I want to buy it physically. If I buy a game digitally, 9 times out of 10, it's because there is not a physical option, or I own it on another console already, so I'll buy the license on a different console. I have every Batman Arkham game. I have Arkham City. I actually don't have Arkham Asylum. I never bought Arkham Asylum natively. But what I did buy was Arkham City on the 360, and then I bought on the PS4 Arkham Knight. And then I bought on PS4 the Arkham Collection that was Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. And then on Xbox, I bought Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, Arkham Knight in another collection. So in my mind, that's okay. Not everything has to be completely physical. But Nintendo has made their digital games $70 and their physical games $80. And that's just not consumer friendly. If the standard is 70, it should be 70. Nintendo games never go on sale. Why does a company like Ubisoft put out games like Assassin's Creed? And this isn't me talking shit on Assassin's Creed, but why do they put out a game like Assassin's Creed and within a year it's lowered in price? Because it's not the quality that Nintendo is known for. But I don't think the quality that Nintendo is known for exists anymore. I think they've been cutting corners and just giving us the same thing that we've wanted for years. So when an Ubisoft game comes out and it's a big game and it's got the $100 edition, and then that same $100 edition a year and a half, 2 years later is now for $30, because the interest of it has gone down. And plus, if I know that those games are just going to wind up being cheap, I'm just going to wait for them to come out. I don't have to play them immediately, right? So here you have this this new thing. I've never seen a Nintendo game on sale. And if they are on sale, they're $5, $10 off. And now if I want to even think about trying a game, it's $80. The minimum wage in America is nationally, the federal minimum wage in this country is $7.25 an hour. That's nothing. It's like maybe $1,200 a month. The minimum rent is like $1,200 a month for a studio. There's a guy I work with who just moved here from Washington. He told me he was an hour and a half out of Seattle, and for him to get a studio was $1,400. Bare minimum. That's before his utilities. That's before pet rent. That's before everything else, right? Insurance, renter's insurance, all that other shit. Before any of that, it was $1,400. That person, if you are going to live at the federal minimum wage, which you shouldn't be living at the federal minimum wage because most places have raised it. Most states have raised it, especially places like Washington, Colorado, Los Angeles, California, New York. These states that have raised it, sure, but people are still living paycheck to paycheck. And you're going to tell me to play the silly baby game that I've already played every single time, like GoldenEye. GoldenEye fucking sucks, dude. I'm so tired of hearing about how, GoldenEye's so good. It's not. The game doesn't work well. You were 9 the first time you played it, and when you were 9 and you think about it now, when you're 29, 20 years later, it's perfect. GoldenEye fucking sucks. I played GoldenEye for the first time when I was in high school, and I remember being so excited because hearing everybody talk about GoldenEye, and then playing it and being like, this is awful. This is a miserable experience. It looks like shit. It handles like shit. But because you played it when you're 9, and you think that I've never played a good Rareware game. That's the other thing too. Rare had maybe like one thing. Okay, Willy DuWitt brings up, it has historical significance, and that's about it. What historical significance are you actually talking about? Because they're putting the Hitman games on Switch too. And honestly, great idea. I love those games with a deep passion. And if you could play Hitman on the go, it's almost perfect because you can play it for like 30, 40 minutes and get out. You can do a challenge, you can do something quick, get in, get out. And on a Switch, especially if you're going to ride the train, you got a flight coming up, you have to be at your girlfriend's boyfriend's like football game or something. You have to go to like your girlfriend's boyfriend's job work party since you're unemployed and playing Switch. Like, that's great. You could play it for 30 minutes. You can get on with your day. You could, but then then IOI Interactive is making a 007 game. And like, I've never understood, like the people who like 007 would like Nintendo games because they're always the same movie. They're always the same game. Does it make any sense to anybody but me? So Willy DeWitt says the historic significance is that it's the first movie tie-in game. It's not the first movie. Even he corrects himself and says, he forgot about E.T. It was the first successful movie tie-in game. There's a bunch of stuff about, like, it was also a first-person shooter on the 64. There's a bunch of stuff about it that I can see, but it's one of those things where it's like, my favorite game ever is Fallout 3. I know if you look at that game with a modern lens, it's not what I see it as. I was there, but I could admit that. One of my other favorite games of all time is Sonic Adventure 2. I know Sonic Adventure 2 is not a well-made game. It's still one of my favorites ever because I grew up with it. But I can differentiate between, I had on my nostalgia goggles. I have on my nostalgia goggles now because I'm an adult and I miss being a child because I got to pay fucking taxes every goddamn day. And like, here's the other thing. Not to get political, but the fucking president doesn't understand how the economy works and wants to put tariffs on things, thinking that other countries are going to pay for tariffs. And because nobody understands fucking history, there's never been another time where tariffs were put on something and then a giant fucking scale war had happened. A tariff is going on every country. Discs are made in Mexico. Most of the games that you play have some sort of headquarters or something in Japan. There will be an export from Japan to the US. Even if it's not Japan, even if it's something like how CD Projekt Red, if that's the full company's name, is in Poland, how the people who made Stalker are in Ukraine. There's Ubisoft is in France. All these other countries are having huge tariffs put on them, meaning the games are now going to be more expensive, meaning that the games are going to continually increase in price and physical games are dead. And that's just the way it is. And like, maybe I'm the old man shouting at the clouds, but like, I don't want my physical games to go away. I like owning something. I like the way my game looks on my shelf. My game on my shelf is my decor in my home. The same way you put up a poster or a flag or, you know, your concert tickets, your movie tickets, you put them on a wall, you put them in a thing. Like, it shows off who you are. When people come into my house, I want them to be able to go, oh, hey man, you really, like my 360 that I grew up with is a piece of decor in my entertainment system because it means so much to me, because I have my nostalgia goggles on. But I can admit that. The point I'm getting at with all of this is I don't have a PS5 because everything is so goddamn expensive. These new tariffs are put in place. I'm never going to get one. I'm the only person out of my friend group that doesn't have a PS5. I have a bunch of other shit. I'm grateful that I have a bunch of other shit. I'm not going to be able to afford that. I'm not going to be able to afford the next console. We're like 2 to 3 years away, 4 at most, at the PS6. That's about the cycle. It's 25 right now. It came out in 21. November 12th of 2020 is when the PS5 came out. And it's 25. So that means there's 3 to 4 years left in the PS5. The next generation probably won't have a disc drive. So all the PS5 games I just bought, I'm gonna have to rebuy. Like, the only reason I'm gonna buy a PS5 is for GTA 6. And this is the final point I'm gonna make before we get out of here. Nintendo sets a precedent. They've set a precedent for the entirety of their career when they got into video games. The video game market crashed in 83 and 85. Nintendo said, don't put this with video games, put this in the toy section, redefining what a video game was, redefining what video game digital electronic entertainment could be in this country. Where video games were doing well in Japan, they said, let's conquer the US market, right? Nintendo then brings around the NES. That sets a standard. The SNES sets a standard. Nintendo wants to go work with Sony, and here's the branch, the N64. Like they showed off in today's Switch thing about Tony Hawk 3 and 4 coming out, that it's going to launch with Switch. That's really cool. But historically, when the Tony Hawk games were coming out, they were nerfed to fuck because they were on a Nintendo console, because they refused to move over to discs. It doesn't matter. Nintendo was always known for having good games. The N64 comes out, Ocarina of Time comes out, and Majora's Mask. I don't like those games, but I understand why they are relevant in a conversation of why Nintendo is important. Because it's something that changed the way people looked at role-playing games, at adventure games, at story in video games. The same way Metal Gear did, the same way Final Fantasy did. Those are games that I have no interest in playing, but I can acknowledge that they're important in the zeitgeist of what is my favorite hobby, of one of my favorite hobbies, right? But I'm being priced out of it. I'm being gentrified. That's what it is. Holy shit. Is that an apt thing or no? Chat, please. Is it apt to say that I'm being gentrified because I can no longer afford my hobby? I mean, I think gentrification has to deal more with race and poverty and wealth disparity, but like that's what I can equate this to. And maybe I'm being overreactive, but that's what it feels like. Nintendo has set this precedent. So if Nintendo sets a precedent that $80, you know, the reason why we had all the motion controls is because of the Wii, because Nintendo prints money. And now if this game is $80, that means GTA 6, they might have been saying we're going to release GTA 6 at $70. And after today, they were like, nah, we're releasing it at $80. I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to release it at $100 or $150 at this point, because we put so much work and time and effort into it. And it's the biggest game of all time. And I just have to make my money back. GTA 6 will make all of its money back in the first 12 hours of it being on sale. The first 24 hours, if it doesn't make its money back in the first 24 hours, I'll do something silly. I don't know. Leave a comment below. But there's no way that GTA 6 is not going to make its money back. We were talking about this at work, and some guy goes, they're going to charge you to play it hourly. They're going to give you the game for free. You could download it for free, but it's going to be $2 every hour. I can't think of a single game that's an $80 game. Maybe New Vegas. Maybe New Vegas is an $80 game. And that's a hard maybe. Every day we get further from that game's release, it's a hard maybe because it's not universal, because of the graphics, the controls, the bugs. Like, maybe that's an $80 game. You got to be really into Fallout to think that that's an $80 game. I don't think an $80 game exists. I don't think maybe, I don't think so. I was going to say maybe Minecraft, but I think Minecraft's appeal is that it's so cheap and that it's so rudimentary when it started, and now we're at a point where we're at now. I'm being priced out of my hobby, and it sucks. And I've been getting into comic books, and it's cool that I can go get a comic book, 32 pages, 22 pages, 25 pages, 46 pages, 52 pages. Every year they do a giant size 100 or an annual or whatever. That's a few bucks, $5, $4, $3, $7, $8, $9, $10, $11, $12. But then you start getting into older books, and I want to read older stories, and I want to read them how they were originally printed and feel like I'm in 1988 reading Alan Moore's The Killing Joke. And a book from 1988 that was mass-produced is $40 for about 46 pages. See what I'm saying? You just feel like you're constantly being priced out of your hobbies. In summation, I think the Switch 2 is cooked. I just don't think it's consumer friendly. I don't think it's industry friendly. I think this is going to have a lasting rippling effect that is going to take advantage of people. Growing up, if you didn't have a console, tough shit. I knew kids who were afraid to mention that they didn't have the newest console because they knew they were going to get picked on. And if money is becoming harder and harder to find because all the jobs are being taken by robots and the people in charge, their right-hand people are fucking Nazis, it's just going to become harder and harder and harder to get your hands on money. It's going to be harder and harder and harder to get your hand on resources. And during a recession or a depression that we're inevitably about to head into because nobody understands fucking history anymore, 1984 was a documentary. We're slowly getting to a point where video games are going to become the only outlet, and during the 2008 housing market closure collapse, whatever the fuck that affected everybody in 2008, the biggest thing that stood afloat was video games, and that's why the 360 and the PS3 are bangers. Those libraries are bangers. Those games are fucking bangers because people were at home and they said, if I don't have money to go out or go to dinner or do anything else, I have money to sit at home. If I gotta be home and rent's fucking through the roof, I'm gonna be home and I'm gonna play video games. I don't know how anybody is like even remotely thinking of dating in this time. If you're not already with somebody or not already married or don't already own something, you're fucked. And because of this, the thing that gave everybody solace during COVID is not an option for when the depression comes around. When every 100 years we get another economic depression. When it comes around in the next few years, because Trump will find a fucking way to get a third term. We won't have that comfort. It's anti-consumer. It's anti-industry. It's anti-everything around me. And like, one of my favorite comments, I'll get out of here. We got to get out of here. This has been going on too long. I genuinely hope you stood around to listen to this and listen to my perspective, because I'm talking about this genuinely because I love it, because it's something that I've loved since I'm a child, and it scares me and hurts me to think that it's just not going to be a part of my life anymore soon, like sooner rather than later. I've been talking about how video games haven't been fun for a long time, but I've rekindled that love because of, I just got out of having a general fucking depression, and I've come into something that is reminiscent of fun that I've had in the past. And now to see it be taken away from me again, and I don't want it to be taken away. In the first time, it felt like it was being taken away from me, and then it was just gone. This, I can actively see it in front of me. I hope you've genuinely given me a part of your day, a part of your time to hear me out, because I'm afraid this is going to happen to you. Not everybody has a good job. Some people are my age, 28 years old, and still live with their parents. And if that's their choice, that's their choice. But in America, we're the only country that you move out before you're married. Every other culture that I can think of that's modern, you stay with your parents until you're married. And there's such a stigma on living with your parents. And there's a rush to get out. And I just feel so bad for the people that are in such a rush to get out and that are putting themselves into poverty to keep up with the Joneses. I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. This is a longer one. This recording says 1 hour and 8 minutes so far. I got things I got to do. Because I usually have a routine when the show's over. If you've enjoyed that, my name has been Vince. This has been Atomic Radio Hour, the post-nuclear podcast. The intro music that should be playing right about now is by the one and only Shane Ivers. This song is called Feather Duster. You can get all of his free music at silvermansounds.com/free music. I want to give a quick shout out to Willy DuWitt, who sat and listened to me rant and rave about something very close and dear to my heart. He's been here all night for the episode. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. If you'd like to be in his spot and listen to these episodes get recorded live, check out the Patreon link in the description below. You might be able to listen live on these episodes. Join the Discord. Check out my Twitter. I don't know if I'm going to still use it. My Twitter, the show's Twitter, Kyle's Twitter, all in the description below. And I love you. Be safe. Try not to be as pessimistic. I genuinely don't believe that whole rant was pessimism. I don't. I think that was impassioned and how I can see things. And there's a way to turn it around. And maybe it's on me that I didn't give ways to turn it around. But I feel like I can't say that doing the opposite of a negative is always a positive. But it's better in this situation, in my opinion, in the way that we're going. I love you. Stay positive. I'll see you next week. Be good to one another. Call your friends, call your mother. If your parents are still around, call them, tell them you love them. Call a friend. I love you, and I'll be seeing you next week. Bye, everybody.
Atomic Radio Hour Podcast.
A Ghoulman Entertainment production.